Good evening, I'm Pinky Webb. Tonight we ask the questions, we tackle the issues, we clarify matters, and we get on point. Heavy rains caused massive flooding in parts of Quezon City last Saturday. This despite scores of flood control projects in the city. The local government has said out of more than 250 projects worth more than 14 billion pesos, only 2 were actually approved by its officials. Let's get on point with Quezon City Mayor Joy Belmonte. Mayor Joy, good to finally have you. Thank you for your time. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Pinky, and it's a pleasure to be here.
All right, let's start with what happened over the weekend. When we saw the pictures, the videos, that was terrible flooding, especially the one in Mother Ignacia. That's where I saw cars were stopped. And I think there was even a car that was submerged. And yun ba yung parang merong lumangoy doon sa area na yon? If we can show some of that footage, what happened in Mother Ignacia?
Well, what happened basically is something called a hyper-localized thunderstorm. So that's a very technical term, meaning very, very strong, unexpected, torrential, extreme rains, but falling on only a very small portion. No?
I see.
And it didn't even cover the entire Quezon City, just probably half of our city, the 1st district, the 3rd and the 4th districts. No? But according to the OST, the UP Resilience Institute, and all the different institutions, this is something that doesn't happen very often. In fact, only once in 15 years. The last time this happened was Ondoy. So, and that's about roughly 15 years or so. No? So, this is something that even if you had good drainage, it would not really also have solved the problem because I heard about 105 millimeters per hour of rain fell over 1 hour. That's 2 to 3 o'clock. When in fact the peak of Ondoy was about 90 millimeters per hour, and our drainage system can only really carry up to 50 millimeters per hour of rain. So it inundated our drainage system.
So it was worse than Ondoy?
It is worse than Ondoy.
I see.
Yeah.
Kaya lang, but it was just for an hour.
Yeah.
Kaya what happened eventually? Bumabaho ba kaagad humupa kaagad yung baha there in Mother Ignacia?
Humupa naman kaagad yung baha, more or less. Iba-iba yung oras ng paghupa, but more or less, humupa naman ng mabilis ang baha.
Okay, so you're not blaming the drainage system or whatever, kunwari sabihin po natin basura, dahil sinasabi nyo nga, sobrang dami lang talaga nung tubig, ulan, na bumuhos doon sa lugar na yon, and the drainage could not really even, it didn't have a capacity to take in that much rain.
Yes.
What can be done though in the event that this happens again? I know you were saying that this happens once every 15 years, but sabihin po natin, it's a prolonged rain.
Yes.
Kahit hindi po ganun kalakas pero mahaba naman po yung oras, they might experience the same thing.
Well, of course, Pinky, I don't want to blame anyone because I'm just not in the habit of doing that. But I feel, of course, that if we had a better, more upgraded drainage system, then, of course, I think that the effect would have been different. No? Not that bad. And I'd like to stress, of course, that Quezon City does have a drainage master plan. I've been talking about this for a very long time because we were probably the first or one of the first cities that had one, just because I know that the national government doesn't have one. And I wanted to make sure that well, one of my promises to the people of Quezon City is bago ako bumaba sa pwesto, ay susubukan kong resolbahan ang problema ng baha. No? So, the UP Resilience Institute worked with us, scientists, engineers, to come up with this plan. It took us 2 years to make. We invested 20 million pesos, and it's a beautiful plan. Now, when we finished this plan, I told the DPWH, kung gagawa kayo ng mga flood control programs sa aming pong lungsod, pwede ba sundan na lang po ninyo itong aming drainage master plan? Kasi ang ganda niya, may mga modeling pa siya. So, kunwari, when rains fall, we know, for example, how much rain will fall in a particular area for it to flood. Kasi malalaman yung mga low areas, yung high areas. So, ang ganda na model talaga yung mga hazard areas natin, yung mga flood-prone areas natin. And the solution is several, no? Maraming solutions. So, one is upgrading our pipes, making them bigger. Another is to create detention basins. So, ito yung solution sa napakaraming mga bansa. And you always say, oh, BGC doesn't flood. It's because it's a huge detention basin,
Meron
really.
So, right in the middle.
Right in the middle. So, maraming yan sa plan.
That's part of the master plan.
That's part of the
Quezon
master
City.
plan, yes.
Okay.
So,
And you spent 20 million for
yes,
this master
20 million.
plan. Just a quick question on that. You have a master plan for Quezon City, but you are surrounded by other cities.
Yes.
Did you take that into account?
Yes, because waterways are transborder. They don't recognize borders. But of course, the job of coming up with a regional master plan is not, of course, in my hands. It should be the DPWH. And they don't have one for the whole region. And that's why they come up with all kinds of pache-pache projects all over with no, they're not comprehensive.
And you've had this for 2 years? Is that
Yes,
so?
yeah.
Okay.
So actually, after we came out with that, we asked DP, kindly please use this plan. And then I also spoke with my congressmen. Anim sila sa Quezon City. Sabi ko, may lobby powers kayo, pwede kayong mag-lobby for funds for your respective districts. Sana pag nagla-lobby kayo for flood control, can you also please refer to this plan? Yun ang aking pakiusap.
And what was their response to that?
Well, they said, of course, yes. But clearly, it did not happen, no?
Okay. I want to go to that in a bit, no? I just want to show the other flooded areas during that weekend. One, of course, in CP Garcia, meron din doon terrible flooding there. And of course, nandiyan din yung Araneta Avenue, Kamuning, Agham Road, Visayas Avenue. All right. Very interesting. You mentioned that you have a master plan. Good. It's good you guys invested in this, and I'm assuming it should work. Here's the thing. When I checked the Sumbong sa Pangulo website, I saw 124 flood control projects in Quezon City from 2022 to 2025. And I'm mistaken, because during the press con you had, together with your engineer, he said that there were 256 flood
Yes.
control projects.
Yeah.
To the tune of, how much was it
About
again?
14.5 billion pesos.
14.5
Yeah.
billion pesos. To be clear, what were the years covered by this 14 billion pesos?
I think 2021 to 2025.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mayor, dun sa 14 billion, would you know saan napunta yung pera?
Yeah, napunta sa iba-ibang flood control projects.
That
I
was not
suppose.
part of your master plan?
None of which are part of our master
Not
plan.
even one?
We can't really tell at the moment because they were not coordinated with the city. Only 2 out of the 256 projects were coordinated with the city. And when we found out na pumuputok na ng itong issue ng flood control, tsaka ko lang pinahanap itong mga projects na ito. And yun na nga, we found a few, 141 from the Isumbong sa Pangulo website. Pero I was convinced that it was not all. Tingin ko marami pang iba. So I put out a crowdsourcing appeal sa mga taong bayan. Magsumbong kayo. Meron ba ang flood control project sa inyong mga komunidad? Sabihin nyo sa amin. No? Then I talked to the barangay officials. No? Sabihin nyo sa amin kung ano yung mga projects sa inyong mga jurisdictions. And then may website pala yung DPWH. So tinignan ko rin yon. So the total that we came up with, it was about 256. No? And ayun na nga, 2 lang yung na-coordinate sa amin doon sa 256 na yun.
Why? Can please explain to us, because again, this is a question I've asked over and over again. What is the responsibility of the local government with regards to projects implemented by national to the respective district? In other words, ano ho ba talaga responsibilidad ni Mayor Joy dito sa lahat ng proyektong ipinapatupad at ini-implement ng DPWH sa inyong city?
Well, ang tingin ko, dapat may coordination because alam ko sa local government code, nabasa ko naman dati na dapat talaga laging nagko-coordinate yung national sa local. Bukod dyan, alam ko na may existing executive order na nagsasaad din na kailangan may coordination. Alam ko rin na kapag nakipag-meeting ako sa iba't ibang ahensya ng pamahalaan bilang mayor ng Lungsod Quezon, napakahalaga ayon sa kanila, sa mga cabinet secretaries, makipag-ugnayan lagi sa local government. At bukod dyan, nagpasa pa ng ordinansa ang Quezon City Council na kailangan mag-coordinate ang national government sa local
Why
government.
was there a need to even pass an ordinance?
Because they were not already coordinating with us, even
And
from the
why?
start. I don't know, Pinky. I really don't understand why they would bypass the local government, but they were not getting permits. So I want to stress that because people on social media would say, yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, people in social media would say, oh, imposibleng hindi mo yan alam, Mayora. Kasi di ba kumukuha sila ng permit sa city government? I want to stress, never sila kumukuha ng permit sa city government. Basta na lang may tatayo na vertical, no? At yun ang dahilan kung bakit kami nagpasa ng ordinansa. It was because of the vertical.
Please explain vertical.
Vertical are covered courts, barangay hall, multipurpose hall. Kasi ginagawa nila, magpapagawa sila ng project para sa barangay, tapos iiwanan na lang nila yung project, walang kuryente at walang tubig. Tapos ilalapit sa akin ng mga barangay officials, Mayor, tulungan mo kami mag-apply ng tubig at sa Meralco, no, at kuryente sa Meralco at sa Manila Water o sa Maynilad. And the reason bakit wala is because wala silang building permit. No? And that is a prerequisite for applying for utilities. No? So, sabi namin, okay, pasa tayo ng ordinansa, dapat may certificate of coordination, ipresenta nila sa amin yung project. We have a platform for that. We have a bi-weekly or twice a month infracom. No? So, it's called the Infrastructure Committee. Member po dyan ng DPWH.
Nauna pa pala kayo kesa sa infrastructure hearing dito sa okay, House of Representatives.
And present sila dapat at doon nila pinipresenta sa amin ang iba't ibang projects ng national government sa city natin.
You know, when you said the permits, I think it's good to highlight that because madami talaga nagsasabi, hindi pwedeng hindi nyo alam. Kasi kumukuha sila ng permit sa inyo. Hence, now you're telling us you had to pass an ordinance so that they will get permission or /permit from the local government. In other words, kailangan nila ngayon, because of your ordinance, tama ho ba, kumuha ng building permit? Ganun ho ba?
Wala nga, certificate of coordination na nga lang yun eh. So bali, pag nag-present sila sa amin, sa Infracom, kinilatis namin yung project, pinag-usapan, akma ba to, kailangan ba natin ito? Kasi yan ang purpose of coordination. We want to make sure that you're not building a project that we have funded for already to avoid duplication. We want to make sure that you're funding a project that is really needed by the people. For example, we found so many flood control projects, pag tinignan mo sa hazard map, wala man lang sa flood-prone area. Okay, isa yan sa mga nakita namin, mga problema, 'di ba, sa mga projects nila. So there's a need to coordinate so we can work together to optimize the funds of the people.
Siguro, this just came to mind, no? Pag meron pong gustong mag-build o mag-open ng business sa kahit anong lungsod, kumukuha ho sila hindi ba ng building permit, etc. And yet, when there is a government project that needs to rise, vertical nga po, sa Quezon City, for example, they don't even need to do that.
They need to do that, but they were not doing it. They need to do it.
Okay, but is it clear now that they need to do it? Because sabi nyo nga, kailangan ng certificate of coordination.
In our ordinance, we already mandated that, right? And then the local government
what about other cities? I guess that's my question.
Yes.
Is an ordinance necessary? Or is it in the local government code? Because I remember Mayor Isko was also saying nung nagagalit siya dun sa mga ilang nakita niya na wala daw permit, bakit daw walang say-so sa local government? Nasaan ang permit ng mga ito? So kahit po kami nalilito eh.
So actually, dapat talaga kumuha sila at tumupad sila, mag-comply sila sa mga requirements ng lungsod kasi they're building in the jurisdiction of our city. They should respect our laws and our policies. But hindi sa Quezon City, hindi talaga sila kumukuha. And I know when I'm looking at the news that other cities as well have complained. I think Mayor Raisa Trianas in Iloilo also mentioned na hindi rin niya alam na may mga flood control projects sa Iloilo. And there were several other mayors that I've spoken to that said to me that they have never granted any permits. No permits were ever applied sa kanila. So, hindi rin niya alam kung meron mga projects o wala sa kanilang mga lungsod.
It's just very concerning because when you said that they will build with no coordination from the local, what if the local already funded a particular vertical project na popondohan din ng national? I'm very bothered by that and confused by that inefficiency and
And it has happened. It has happened that, after we passed this measure, at least yung vertical nga, more or less kino-coordinate na. At marami kami nakita na projects dahil yung barangay captain, di ba, naglalobby for funds sa kanilang congressman, pinondohan ni congressman, pero naglobby din pala sa mayor. So, minsan may mga ganong kapitan eh. So, na-budget na namin, na-budget na pala ni congressman. O now, when they present, it's the same project pala. So, we duplicated the same project. And that's why we have to coordinate.
How can this be fixed? How can it be fixed? Because the president already said that the local government should be part and parcel of any planning, building of national projects. Dapat daw kinoconsult at the least ang local government. Would that be enough? Would that suffice?
Well, I would prefer if there was some kind of a House bill or a national law that was passed by Congress.
So it's clear. So it's clear?
Yes, so it's clear. And the obligations of both parties is clear.
Even if it's in the local government code?
Yeah, well, because I think in the local government code, it's just a couple of provisions, but it's not really spelled out as to the process that has to be undertaken, and when do you actually start, coordinating. Because sometimes the DPWH, yes, they coordinate, pero the project is already halfway done before they actually start coordinating.
Yeah. It just doesn't sound right,
Yeah.
because the coordination should begin prior to even breaking ground.
Yes.
Actually, sa planning pa lang because there's a possibility that there could be a duplication of projects. All right, maybe that's something that Congress should also do in aid of legislation, especially now that they're looking into these flood control projects. All right, we're just going to take a very short break. We're going to talk about there are projects that were supposed to be built in non-buildable areas in Quezon City. We're going to talk about that after the break with Quezon City Mayor Joy Belmonte. This is On Point. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Still with us, Quezon City Mayor Joy Belmonte. So, let's talk about these. Meron ho kasi tinatawag na letter of objection. So, sabi niyo, inikot niyo na ito lahat. Sino yung binigyan niyo ng permit?
Nako, I forgot the other one. There are two out of 256.
Yeah.
I know that one is a project in La Mesa Eco Park. Okay, and I know another one is also in that same district, the 5th district. I don't recall giving any other permits, but because they don't really apply for them. That's why. No, but I do want to talk about those projects in Santo Domingo, or one project there.
Go ahead.
Santo Domingo and also Talaya. No? There is a creek, and I've talked about this so many times because it's so absurd. It's called the Matalahib Creek, and it's a tributary of the San Juan River. And they actually built a pumping station right on top of the creek. No, and the pumping station is about 97 million pesos. And it turns out it was only phase 1. So they never applied for a certificate of coordination. We saw that, okay? So in fairness to our engineers, they actually saw it because it's just so absurd and blatant. It's right on the creek. And we asked them to present to us. And they did. They said it's a pumping station. We said we don't think that should be on top of the creek. There is a water code that prohibits building on top of creeks. That's an obstruction to the flow of water. And, it's a non-buildable space. So no. So letter of objection. So no, we didn't allow it. They continued to build. Letter na naman, no. Cease and desist na. Continued pa rin to build hanggang natapos na yung piece of infrastructure na nandun. So I met with them and I said, tapos na ba yung pumping station? No, hindi pa. Kasi may phase 2 pa, which is this year, 2026, ipopondohan daw nila ng 250 million, which is to buy the the pump. But the pump is to be imported pa from another country. Yan ang sinabi nila sa akin. So sabi ko, so it's a 350 million peso project.
Right.
And it won't be done until next year, end of next year. Sabi nila, yeah. So sabi ko, okay, you know what? Hindi ko to papayagan talaga because una sa lahat, nasa creek nga yung unang building. So I actually said, pwede ba terminate nyo na yung project na yan? Tapos let's just call it a sunk cost, yung 96 million ninyo. Tapos i-demolish natin para dumalo yung tubig. Because after they built that, na-obserbahan namin, we have all kinds of sensors all over the city. Flood waters have risen in many adjacent barangays that were not flooded before.
Because of that?
Because of that. So we have very concrete evidence that this structure has actually caused an exacerbated flooding in the area and should be removed from the area.
Okay. When you said that meron na kayong letter of objection, sinabi niyo you cannot build there, nag-cease and desist, where should you go para po hindi matuloy yung ganito? I mean, kailangan ho ba ang mayor pumunta kay DPWH Secretary at sabihin, Secretary, this is not going to work. You have to tell your team to stop. What do you do in a situation like that? Or papel na lang palagi para meron ka ding paper trail?
Well, tama ka, Pinky. Ginawa ko, I wrote DPWH Secretary Manny Bonoan and I requested for an appointment. And my gosh, ilang beses ako nag-reach out at nag-request na pwede ba niya akong kausapin. I wanted to bring this up with him. But for some reason, he was always too busy to see me. So hindi ko actually nasabi sa kanya.
Mayor Joy, this 97 million, what happened to it?
And that's it nga, that structure on top of the creek. Yeah.
Is it a useless structure there?
Yes, it's there. It's
and
a
you
useless
said
structure.
kailangan it needs to be demolished because it exacerbated
Yes,
adjacent
that
areas.
was my request to DPWH. I said, what if you're going to finish this project in 2026 or the end of 2026 with a pump, and then we're not even sure if that technology will really work? Because, to be honest, I've spoken to some experts who believe that that is the wrong intervention for the floods in that area, and we requested to see a study, and there was none presented to us. Sabi, I recommended that. Sana pwede na lang ninyong i-terminate yung project, save the 250 million for another flood control project.
Terminate the project and render useless that 97
Well,
million
it
pesos.
is kind of useless, isn't
Yeah.
it, Pinky? Yeah.
Okay. Apart from this, were there other issues? Because that was one of the issues I wanted to discuss with you. How can one build in a non-buildable area? Hindi ho ba common sense yun?
Opo, I think, well, yes. I agree, Pinky. Talaga, totoo yun. I don't know what made them decide to do that. But when
somebody has to answer for that.
But yun na nga, when we asked them, I did meet with the regional director and the DE, and they said something like, or we got some kind of a message na because they wanted to build on a piece of land on the side of the creek, but it was privately owned. But then that's why nga, I am advocating coordination because the city can expropriate We have that power naman We can purchase land. We can even relocate informal settlers if they're in the way of a project. So that's why it doesn't make sense not to coordinate with the city. Why would you, it's not an ideal space, but sige, let's just build there kasi private yung land. Why don't you talk to the city? Baka the city can help. Yan naman yung point ko dito, di ba?
What is it? Is it because you don't have a good working relationship with the district engineer? What's that all about?
No, I think it's just the way it is in all, the way they do things. I've been thinking when you've been reading the news, all kinds of things have been happening all over the country. Many mayors have been saying that they're not getting consulted or they're not getting permits from the local government. So I just think that's a practice. Yeah.
It's come to light actually because you're right. When you said yung permits, people were saying that imposibleng hindi alam ni mayor, imposibleng hindi alam ni governor, imposibleng hindi sila kumuha ng permit sa local government. And then now you're saying 2 out of 256 only secured permits from Quezon City, from your office. What do you intend to do now, moving forward?
Well, moving forward, we're continuing the investigation. Last week, when we did the press con, I think we had inspected about 90 projects, and now we're almost done. We have about 50 more projects to inspect. And all of that, of course, all of our findings, we're going to submit to the independent commission that the president is forming because they are in a better position to delve deeper and really find facts with regards to whether cases should be filed. But in my position, I think that we are in a good place to file a case against, well, whoever is responsible for building on top of our creek, because this is a very local issue. And I think I can actually, as a mayor, already file a case against responsible individuals for that.
But who's responsible for that? Would that be the district engineer?
Well, whoever signed off on the project, I guess the district engineer and maybe the regional director.
And which company, which construction company was this? Do you know?
Well, that one on Matalahib is St. Timothy.
St. Timothy is the one there. I see. All right. So moving forward, though, how do you intend to be able to make use of this study that you did and paid for in Quezon City for your Quezon City master plan?
Well, since I keep talking about it, first I had a meeting with MMDA, Chair Artes, and he is a great believer also in detention basins. So the MMDA is a massive plan to build detention basins all over Metro Manila. And he's actually talked to me about it, and it's very aligned with our plan. So that I'm hopeful. That's one. The second is the dredging part. Well, we know that Ramon Ang has already volunteered to help mitigate flooding in Metro Manila, and we have been in discussion with him, and we've actually signed a memorandum of agreement already, and he will help us dredge the Tulyahan River and the San Juan River. So that's that. And then I've had a talk with Secretary Mina Pangandaman, mentioned the plan to her, and she was
the master plan?
Yeah, the master plan. I gave her a copy of the plan. She was so astounded. She thought it was a small volume. It was huge. And so she actually mentioned it in a hearing in Congress that all cities should have a master plan like Quezon City, so that it's easier for us to identify projects to fund. So it's gaining ground, this idea of having a plan. And And now, of course, I've talked again to the congressmen, and they now have assured me that they will, lobby for funds for the plan.
Yeah, so that's what I actually, as the last question, wanted to ask you. Didn't your congressmen know about your master plan
Yes, they did. I called them to a meeting.
prior to you calling them to a meeting? Prior to this, like in the years prior to this, because you said you had the master plan 2 years ago.
Oh yeah, no, as soon as that finished, I already spoke to that set of congressmen that were sitting, and most of them are still there. So I did mention this to them around about that time. And
And out of the 6, how many are, allies?
well, at that time, all.
Okay.
All of them are allies. And all of them assured me that they would fund the master plan.
That's the question. If parang it's almost as if kailan dapat magkapartido, magkabati yung mga mayor at yung mga congressman para matuloy kung ano man. Anything that you want to do in your district doesn't have problems. You don't encounter problems because you're all, in one party, you're all gunning for the same thing. You're aiming for the same objective, right? And so now I'm questioning that because if they knew about this 2 years ago, then whatever they lobbied to the DPWH should have been part of this master plan that was already ready 2 years ago.
I agree. So, but maybe, there are other priorities at that time for them as well, because I know that they do get requests from their barangay officials for flood control projects. So I'm just assuming that they prioritize the requests of the
Understand.
barangay.
But for the good of the city, if there's a master plan, you prioritize that.
I would think so. I would think so.
All right, Quezon City Mayor Joy Belmonte, good to have you. Thank you so much for your time. That's On Point. Join us again tomorrow, 7:30 p.m. here on BNC, the Billionario News Channel. I'm Pinky Webb. Thank you for watching.